Over the past weekend, I had the opportunity to attend a career development conference a few hours away and meet the donor of one of the scholarships that got me to college. The conference itself was fine, in the beginning at least. I had some friends from my school go to, so it wasn't like I didn't have people to hang out with. And I met some great new people as well, like my roommate. Beyond the social aspect, we got to hear from people from across the industry from a really impressively wide range of occupations, which was really interesting to be able to see all these key players and their representing employees in one place educating students like me for career opportunities during and beyond school. But the conference had one major glaring issue. It ran for 4 whole days from Thursday to Sunday. And over the course of these days, we were constantly sitting around, listening to these industry professionals talk for hours on end. Admittedly, it was useful, interesting information, but you can see how that would get boring after so long, especially to someone like me, who isn't as career-oriented at the moment, at least as much as I should be. After a couple of days, I started to lose interest pretty quickly, not paying much attention, and at this point not socializing as much either, simply because I was so bored and socially drained. Eventually, I did get to meet the scholarship donor at a formal dinner, and it was nice to have a conversation with the older gentleman. He had spearheaded the organization hosting the conference in the early days, and contributed to many other different organizations that I actually had been part of as well. He even ended up, ironically enough, growing up around where I did, and we shared a lot of conversation that we could both relate to. Another gal, about my age, sitting next to me, presumably another recipient of a scholarship, chimed in now and then, but her questions were shallow and didn't hold attention for long. So it felt rewarding, not only to be able to have that genuine conversation, but also to feel reassured that my donor presumably was happy with the direction I was going into the future. Anyways, after this, the conference still had a whole day ahead of it. The itinerary was pretty bleak. Just one more small session and then networking activities for us students that included line dancing and yard games, something I wouldn't mind missing, and then check out in the morning. So, coupled with my boredom and a hint of peer pressure, I felt like I wasn't going to miss much if I just packed my things up and left. Now, we technically weren't supposed to leave early, but there was no way for them to track if we were gone, especially in a crowd that big, the majority of which was too far away to leave that night anyways. So I did what I wanted, packed my clothes, left a note thanking my roommate for being a cool dude, and left early. I started the ride back to my dorm, a little over a couple hours in length, and it was great at first. The interstates were clear, the speed limit's high, a soda in my cup holder, and good music on the radio. It seemed like my early escapade was going to be great, and I'd be home and into my nice bed in no time. Of course, if you know anything about story structure, you could probably guess that things didn't quite go the way I planned. About 30 minutes into my drive, I noticed a crazy haziness ahead, and mind you, it's also pitch dark at this point of the night. I didn't think much of it because we weren't far from an asphalt plant, so I thought it might be temporary, clearing up after I got further down the road. I hit the wall of what I now knew was fog, and my visibility was instantly reduced, to the point I couldn't even see road signs until I was right up on them. Not only was it some of the thickest fog I had ever drove through, I mean it was leaving moisture on everything like it had just rained an inch, but I was also driving down an interstate I had never driven down before. I was somewhat familiar with that part of the world, sure, but not the road itself. So, thanks to the fog and other traffic around me, my speedy interstate ride home was reduced to a measly 45 miles per hour. I managed to stop at the next town and top off on gas, use the restroom, and get a drink. And as I walked back to my truck, I looked at the scene around the gas station, or rather what little scene I could see. I laughed to myself. I mean, this had to be the purest, most immediate form of karma ever, didn't it? I left early to get home before midnight and enjoy sleeping in my own bed, whereas at this point I could just be back in the bed at the hotel, asleep and happy. But instead, I had another half of my drive to tackle. And as I continued my foggy drive home, focusing on the road, my mind lingered back to that conference, and the kind man I had had that conversation with at the dinner the night before. That individual, that man that had so much influence in making that organization, that conference possible, invested in my education too. He made that personal investment in my career, literally aided in making my future education and career attainable not only through monetary donation, but also the donation of opportunity and conversation. Was it a make or break scholarship? No, not by any means, but it was still an investment. an investment in me. And how did I repay that? By leaving the opportunity literally given to me behind, even if it was near its end. I didn't even have the decency to see it all the way through. I took his contribution and the opportunity that literally sat in the palm of my hands and didn't give it the care it deserved. Looking back, I truly do feel guilty, as I do with most situations like this, and I wish I would have just forced myself to stay. I feel like this is something that everyone has done before or can at least relate back to. Of course, not this exact situation by any means, but rather the fact that we're so selflessly given so many opportunities throughout our lives that we just don't take as seriously as we ought to. They're laid out in front of us, with so many people eager to guide us towards success, and yet we take the short-term, most gratifying path instead. It's like giving someone a gift, watching them open it, excited to see their reaction, only for them to crumple up their nose and stifle out a forced thanks. Sure, they might use the gift down the line, but they didn't appreciate it at that moment. And I think a level of self-control comes into play here too. I mean, yes, the conference was ultimately boring. It could have been done better or at the least shorter. And my opinion on that won't change. But especially as adults, we should have the control to just buckle down, sit through it, and smile and nod. It might go a long way for the other party, whether we know it or not. I do think I'm going to regret this more as I go into the future, not only because of the guilt of leaving early, but because I didn't take advantage of those great resources available to me. There were so many companies and professionals there eager to talk to students like me, and I interacted with so few. In reality, I could have even likely left a future career on the table, back at that conference center, simply by not introducing myself and asking a few questions, even if I wasn't genuinely interested. I know this is more of a story format compared to what I usually talk about, but it really just felt like the most genuine way to deliver my point from this recent experience I had and the damaging mistake I made, morally and in a career sense. Don't keep leaving opportunities on the table. Take them by the reins and explore them. See them out and fulfill the possibilities laid out in front of you. Sometimes it might even take putting on a fake smile and trying anyway, even if it doesn't seem like it's for you. People genuinely do want to help you, to guide you to success, and all it takes is acknowledging their investment and kindness with determination and an open mind. I appreciate you all and the amazing response on my recent video. It truly does mean the world to me, and it's still even a little hard to process. I promise that I'll take hold of this opportunity and see it through until the end. Again, thank you for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one.